In this, the final unit of Chapter 8 of our InDesign CS6 course, we're going to do some final cleanup to get everything together, add the last details for our student order form. But we're also going to create cell and table styles that match up with the original table that we built in the previous unit of this course. So we can actually duplicate that very quickly working with Adobe InDesign, not just for this document, but any document we create in the future. Let's begin by putting the word subscriptions next to this word total training online. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my text tool. I'm going to drag it down and to the right, like so, and I'm going to type the word subscriptions. Gonna double click to highlight the entire word, and I'm going to make this Minion Pro bold, 30 points on 36-point absolute value for leading. I'm not going to use the parentheses that show that auto leading by default. After that, what I'd like to do is I'm going to take this type color right here, and I'm going to make that color not the default of black, but Pantone 288C. Because again, we're building a two-color spot color job. It'll print in 288 blue and then Pantone 355 green. So we've done that. We're in good shape. And in fact, as I look at the type that I have right here inside of my table, I'll see that it also is set in that default color of black. We're going to fix that before we continue as well. So I'm going to get my text tool. I'm going to highlight all of this type right down here. And I'm going to go to my swatches panel in this case. This is the easiest and best way to do that. And I'm going to change the color of the type from, again, that default of black to Pantone 288C. And when I click away, I'll see that that type now is that deep dark blue that we were looking for as well. So with that said, let's line subscriptions up with the logo that we've got right here. I'm going to grab a horizontal ruler guide and place it at the baseline. That's the bottom of lowercase letters without any descenders of the word online with this logo. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the text and move this down to where it matches. Again, we always want to get rid of the extra space that we have because we don't want overlapping frames when we're working with InDesign whenever we can help that. It just makes life a lot easier if we don't do that. So I'm going to place a brand new logo by first clicking on absolutely nothing, so nothing's selected, and then I'm going to go Control D on my Windows PC I'm working with here. If you're using a Mac, of course, Command D would be the keyboard shortcut to bring you to the Place dialog box. I'm going to double click on Total Training Spot Color Outline to pick up and place. My mistake. I had that selected before. Remember, we said we don't want to have anything selected. So I'm going to go Control Z, Command Z on the Mac. That will deselect my text frame and place inside my cursor that Total Training logo. So I'm going to click right over here, and I'm going to get rid of this extra space that we set for the table, just like I did a little bit earlier for what I did with the subscriptions. So I'm going to take this logo and I'm going to place it to match, just as it shows here, against the left side margin, in order my smart guides show the same space between the logo and the table as I now see here between the bottom of the table and my new Total Training logo. Now I'm going to want to make this a little bit bigger. So I'm going to go to my control panel and I'm going to select the upper left hand corner reference point, and I'm going to take this and I'm going to make it half again, or 150% of its original size. I want to make sure that constrained proportions for scaling link is selected. It's not broken. And then when I do that and hit the tab key, it'll take my logo and it'll make it bigger so I've got what I'm looking for. Now in this case, what I want to do is I want to place DVD courses just to the right of that, exactly like I placed subscriptions up here above for the Total Training Online table that's going to be immediately above it. So I'm going to go click on this, and I'm going to go Control C to copy, then Control V to paste. Command C, Command V if you're working on a Mac, of course. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to bring it over just like so. Create yet another one of those horizontal ruler guides. So when I take this and line it up, I can change that from subscriptions to DVD courses. And I've got that set and lined up. Actually, just a hair lower. So with that selected, I'll use my cursor to bump it down, and that really lines up perfectly. So we're in good shape there. Now before I can use a table style or cell styles that we've created, I have to create those styles. Let me get the swatches panel out of the way. And I need to discuss the elements that are built into this. Now you may remember in the previous unit where I talked about how no matter how sophisticated the table you create is, that in fact it's simply built out of text elements and it's processed as text. That's especially important when we're talking about whatever information we put inside this table. So if you want to get good quality results for what you're working with, the first thing you want to do is you actually want to set up paragraph styles for what I've got here for these table elements, as I'm working with that for the header, over here for the text, and then over here to the right. So I've got that tabulated information that lines up by the decimal tab that we so painstakingly built into the previous table. I'm going to begin with the header information. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my type tool and I'm going to click into subscription. And you'll notice when I do that, it shows the attributes that we built into that before. That it's Minion Pro, bold, 14 points over 14 point leading, and that it's aligned to the center of the area that we want to work with. We're going to go to the Paragraph Styles button right over here. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a brand new paragraph style. Double click on it. It opens it up. And that lets us see all the attributes that go with this style. And sure enough, it's bold, 14 points on 14 point leading. The color is paper. It's aligned to the center. And the tint, or lack of it, is actually 100% or absolutely solid. So we're going to name this TT header paragraph. I'll explain why I added that extra word in just a minute. Then we're going to double click in this cell right here. Create again a brand new paragraph style. We'll name this one TT table text. And then we're going to move over to the right just a little bit like so. Double click inside the price to highlight part of it. Again, we're going to create a brand new paragraph style. Double click on that. And we'll call this TT table tabulation. It's basically designed, in this case with one tab, to align to the decimal point. It says at 45 hundredths of an inch from the left-hand side of whatever cell we build that into. So I'm going to say OK. And as we do that, we'll have a TT header paragraph right up here. We'll have TT table text, just as shown over here. And then for numerical information, we'll have TT table tabulation, just as it shows right here. Now that we've built the styles that we want to use in the table, we can build the table styles that we want to work with. Now to get to that, what you do is you go to the window pull-down menu, you go to Styles, and then you select the Table Styles panel. And that brings this information up on the screen. Now, there are actually 3 nested tabs underneath where the table styles are. I have general table information for building them from scratch. I have table styles for holding formatting for the entire table. And I have cell styles that I can apply for singular exceptions that I want to work with as I'm developing this information. Let's go to the Table Styles tab. And what we're going to do in this case is we're actually going to highlight all of this text that's set down for our basic table. Create a new table style, and now double click on that to build what we'd like to have. Now, in general, all of the attributes that are built into what I have selected are exactly what we have built into the Table Style Options dialog box. So for example, it shows that we've got those alternating fill rows between 10% of 288C and 10% of 355C. It also shows a couple of things that we didn't have built in. All right, the alternating row strokes between Pantone 288C and 355C, that's the green that we were working with. You'll remember in the previous unit that we applied a manual override when we created the original table style to get the results that we were looking for. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to use this not so much as a perfect model for our new style, but a template that we can fine-tune and modify to build that, which we're going to start with by going to the header rows and create a brand new cell style for whatever's going to be in the header rows. So I'm going to click on that, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this one TT header cell, and we're going to go with these attributes that we have built in. Now in this case, what it does, it shows that there's a top stroke color of Pantone 288 blue, a bottom stroke, left stroke, all those are the same, and that the right stroke color is once again all the same. So we're basically defining what's inside that area, all the stroke and the fill information that's in there. And for paragraph styles, so the type that we're going to place inside of it, we're actually going to make that one TT header paragraph style. So as we add that, it shows that we'll have all those attributes as well, which are basically that type is 14 points on 14-point leading, it's actually paper colored, and that it's centered on the page, just like we had built before. Let's go to the text, and as we do this, we've got rules for how we could build the insets for that information, where the baseline offset would be, and whether we rotate this text or not. We're not doing any of that here. We just want it laid out exactly like we have over here when we're looking at it inside of our previous table. Let's go to strokes and fills, and what this does is this shows that we've got a stroke weight of nothing. Okay, for Pantone 288C would be the color for the stroke, so we can leave that be because it's none. But we also want to take that color and we want to make that solid 288C as well. So when I click on that, I've got that information in. Finally, as we go to diagonal lines, we can use these for rotated type to basically set those slanted table legends that give us the ability to put more text into a shorter space. So with my TT header cell style, I've got all of this information. The paragraph style is TT header paragraph, which means Minion Pro bold, 14 points on 14 leading, and paper colored, aligned to the center wherever that paragraph's put. We've got the stroke colors that go all the way around, as well as the fill color of Pantone 288C. And when I say OK, that's going to be the rule that's set for our header rows when we work with them and we create. I've got my general table set up for what happens by default, and it shows that I have a table border all the way around at 1 point, Pantone 288 blue. The row strokes, it shows with that previous setting. Because you remember, we talked about the overrides. As I looked at it before in that overview, it said that this was 1 point Pantone 288 blue, and this one was going to be 1 point Pantone 288 green. We're actually going to change that to match, so there are no surprises here. And so we go to column strokes. We say that it's still set to black. I'm going to leave it just like this. We have the alternating rules that we set in this case. 10% screens of Pantone 288 blue and Pantone 355 green. So I'm going to say OK. Actually, let me change that table style name. I almost made a mistake here. And what we'll do is we'll call this TT table and say OK. I'm going to go back out to my fit and window view. So I'm going to go Control 0 for my fit and window view, Command 0 if you're working on a Mac. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually set one more text frame. So I'm going to get my type tool, drag this down underneath, just like so. There's my flashing cursor. And what we're going to do in this case is we're actually going to insert a new table with all of the styles that we created and were talking about before. So I'm going to go to Table, Insert Table, and in this case I want to make those body rows 8, so I want it to be 8 rows deep. 4 columns is just fine. 1 header row, and for the table style we're going to change that from Basic Table to TT Table for total training. And when I click on that and I say OK, what it's going to do is it's actually going to create 8 rows in this body area, 4 columns straight across, with a separate header row that's got that Pantone 288 blue and the ability to set reverse type inside of it. Now, before I continue, I'm going to line this up to match with the type that we have up above, or this table. So I'm going to move all these guides between and each end of the table to line up perfectly for what we were working with before. Now I'm going to put type inside of this frame. In this case, I'm going to go QTY, that abbreviation we used for quantity, hit the Tab key, going to go Product, because we're actually selling DVD courses here, not subscriptions that let you take any course. These are more detailed, have more information, and they're placed for individual courses. Hit the Tab key, make that Price. Hit the Tab key once again, make that Total. And now when I go Control 1 to see that page at 100% size, I can see that this table actually matches this table. And that's exactly what I wanted to do. So if I go back out one more time to Control 0 to see my form, I can admire all the handiwork that we've done as we went through this chapter of our InDesign CS6 course. I can go File, Save, to save all the effort that I've actually put inside of it, and then I can match this up to the completed exercise that's saved within your working files to see how well I did to matching to the baseline. And that concludes this chapter of our InDesign CS6 course.